I'm Rosie from Rosie and Ramona. Welcome to one of my craft tutorials ready for Christmas. We're filming here today at the Guildhall in front of this lovely open fire. Feel lovely and toasty. I'm going to show you how to make a really simple wall hanging. Really easy to make, doesn't require many materials, anybody can do it, super cheap, and it'll make a fantastic Christmas gift. So all you're going to need today is an embroidery wheel. These are really easy to get hold of. You can get them at any kind of crafts shop. And the great thing about these is they come in twos. So they come as an inside and an outside, as you can see here. So you get 2 for 1 basically. You can make 2 wall hangings and you only have to buy 1. So they're your embroidery wheels. You will need a pom-pom maker. If you don't have a pom-pom maker, that's absolutely fine because I'm going to teach you how to make one out of a bit of cardboard. Really, really simple. You'll need some scissors. You will need some wool or yarn, anything you can get your hands on. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can use scraps if you want, if you don't have a whole ball. I raid my grandma's wool box and she lets me take whatever I like. So any kind of colours you want. You can choose as many colours or as little colours as you like. The other thing you will need is sticks if you want to add the stick element to the wall hanging. And then other things you can use if you want to that are free or you can find if you go out for a walk is pine cones, feathers, leaves, anything like that. Or if you've got beads, you could use beads on the end of the tassels if you like. But I'm just going to show you a really, really simple one today. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is wrap up your wheel. So really simple, you're just going to tie a piece of wool to the wheel and I'm just going to tie that up there. Now all you're going to do is wrap it around and around until it's come full circle. What I would suggest to you though is if you're using a big ball of wool is maybe take some off so that you're not having to wrap the whole thing around. So what I tend to do is wrap some up around my hand like this. Oh, nearly fell then. We're going to wrap. Just keep going for a little bit and then you can snip that like that. And then you've made your own little ball of wool then. Now it will probably get tangled because you're sort of wrapping it, but it's much easier to detangle this than it is to deal with that. So essentially you're just going to wrap it and try and keep it tight every time. It's quite nice to have a surface underneath you because when you wrap it round, just move that bit out of the way. When you wrap it, you can then let go of it on the table and it's much easier to do. And they don't need to be close together. You could sort of wrap them round a few times and then you could shuffle them up so that you're getting nice coverage. Now you can be as neat with this as you like or as messy as you like. It's going to have the same effect. You just want it to completely cover the wood. And you're going to make your way all the way around. Now, if you're using the embroidery wheel that has the little hinge on it, then you can either wrap it up with wool. So you just, when you get to it, just wrap around. Or alternatively, if you don't fancy that, you can cover it with one of the many things we're going to do later on. So you could place it ready for a pom-pom, or you could perhaps use your stick to cover it. So once that's all wrapped, it's going to look something like this. You need to remember to have a bit to create a loop for it to hang, but we'll deal with that afterwards and I'll tell you why later. So you've got your embroidery wheel covered. If you would like to use a stick, these sticks I just found fallen on the floor at Victoria Park. And you just choose where you want to place it. You can use any size twig. These chunky ones are quite nice that have different bits hanging off them, but whatever you can find really. You can decide how you want it. You can have it at a jaunty angle or you can have it nice and straight. And then you're just going to tie string to it. So you don't have to use the same colour. You could use a different colour, totally up to you. And the hardest bit is doing the first side because it will be quite wobbly. You just want to wrap it around in different ways. Go over and under. See if I can go through there. And actually it looks quite nice if it's quite sort of, you know, messy looking because it looks kind of natural, nice textures. So you're just going to tie those up and then you do the same to the other side. As you can see on these ones here, I've just wrapped it in all different ways. And if you don't like the look of that, if you think that looks quite messy, then the joy of the pom-pom is that we can then cover those bits. So once you've got your stick on, if you're using your stick on, you can now do your decorations. So I'm going to move this to one side. I'm now going to teach you how to make a pom-pom. If you have a pom-pom maker, it will look something like this. It'll be sort of 2 plastic halves, which you hold together and you wrap the wool around. You'll also be able to get different sizes. Usually it'll have them on there. I don't know if you can see that, but this will tell you the diameter of the pom-pom once you've created it. And essentially, you just wrap the wool around it and you do that on both sides. So you need to make it quite even, quite chunky. I will show you this one that I made earlier and it will end up looking something like this. So you've wrapped the wool around both sides and then you've attached the pom-pom maker together and it will look something like this. But before I cut this open, I'm going to show you how to make your own pom-pom maker by just using a piece of card. So, as you can see here, I have drawn 2 circles. The size of the circle will dictate the size of the pom-pom. So all you need is two sizes, a big one and a small one. And then if you make 2 lines here, you're essentially cutting out a donut that's got a gap in it. And it will look something like this once you cut it out. So you need to make sure they're both the same size and they will sit on top of each other to create your pom-pom. So what you need before you start wrapping is a long piece of thread here. This will be what you use to tie your pom-pom on, like so. This needs to sit in between each piece of cardboard. This is quite fiddly. So you're sort of wrapping it around the first donut shape and having each end sticking out of this gap here. And then this goes on top. Now, this is going to stay here and hopefully you'll be able to hold it in place. You sort of have to hold your fingers in such a way that you're sort of covering most of the cardboard. And then what we do is we get some yarn and we wrap it around. Now this is very fiddly, so take your time, but we're going to wrap it all the way around the donut, just like we did with this pom-pom maker here, but instead of the 2 halves, 2 semicircles, you're doing the full circle. I find the easiest thing to do is make a simple loop in sections all the way around, so at least you've got a base and both of your bits of card are in place. Make sure that bit that you put in between is staying in the right place as you go. And you just want to go all the way around. Make this bit nice and tight so that the cardboard stays in place. Again, as you can see, there's bits of string going everywhere, but you get the hang of it. And then once you've done that, you can start to build up, and you need to build up quite a lot. You need it to be quite thick and chunky to make a nice full pom-pom. So what I do then, once you've gone all the way round, you can then start to really go for it and do it so that you can't see the cardboard anymore. So as you can see, you've got to go quite slowly, but it's worth it. The other thing I would say about making pom-poms is don't be too tight with the yarn. It needs to be sort of tight enough to not fall apart, but you don't want it, if you really yank it, then you're not going to get a nice shape at the end of it. Also, if you do it too loose, you're not going to get a nice shape either. So you just want nice in between. So you can see here I've started to build up, and you're going to do that all the way around, and you're going to build up until I'm going to show you the next stage. You see here? The next stage is it's quite chunky, it's quite thick, and this is about ready to cut. So with your cardboard one, the same rules apply. The only difference is you've already got your string in place with that one. So I'll show you now. I'm going to cut this up. So this is all secured and in place. So if I chop this up, I find nail scissors are the best with this because they're little and they fit in. You need to make sure that all the yarn's cut. Make sure you've got a nice gap there and you're going all the way through. Now, if you've made it with a cardboard pom-pom maker, your string will be ready to tie up. But with this one, I don't. So let me get a piece. Chop this piece here. Make it quite long so you've got lots to work with. And it's going to go in the middle like this. If you can see, it's gone all the way around there. Maybe level it out so they're same size either end. Tighten it as much as you can. This is the same with the cardboard cutout as well. And then we're going to knot it. Now this bit you have to be as tight as you can. So really put your strength into it. Tighten, tighten, tighten. And then very quickly knot it so that it doesn't have time to loosen too much. I'm probably going too slowly, but we're in. Knot, knot, knot. There we go. And then you simply take out the pom-pom maker. With the cardboard one, you can sort of pull it off. Because the cardboard ones are sort of reusable, you can just sort of rip it out and make a new one. But there you go. If you have any sticky outy bits, you can chop them up. Chop them off and make it nice and circular. And there you have a pom-pom. As you can see, I've got some here that I made earlier. They've got different colours in them. Now it looks really complicated. It's not. You just, as you're winding, you just add a few bits of extra colour as you go. And you never know, it's a bit like tie-dye. You never know what you're going to get at the end of it. You just sort of have to hope for the best, but they always work out nice. So now we've got a lovely selection of pom-poms and they're ready to go on your wheel. I made a bit of a mess here with all this wool. So as you can see, if you're using the twig, you might choose to put your pom-poms over the twig here. You might put a selection of them at the bottom. If you want differing sizes, it's always nice to have a couple of different sizes next to each other. And you're literally just going to tie them onto the wheel and do whatever you want. You could completely fill it and make a wreath of pom-poms. You could have a couple of big ones here to make a little Minnie Mouse if you wanted. You can use really bright colours, you can use quite earthy colours. You'll see here, I've gone for quite an autumnal look here, quite muted tones, or you can use lots of neon. And now actually I will show you how to make the tassels, really simple. So move these pom-poms out the way. So for your tassels, I'm going to use this chunky red stuff, it's really nice. You need to decide how long you want it to be. So if you sort of hold up the yarn, let's say you want it to hang down to here, you're going to need double that. So if you make a mark with your finger, and then you're going to want to chop there. So you're going to chop there, and that's your first tassel. So just make sure you think that that's the right length. And if you want to do different levels, so say, for example, this one, I'll show you this one. You've got a bit of a point at the end here. What you need to do is the next two that you do need to be ever so slightly shorter, and then the two after that need to be ever so slightly shorter, and so on until you've done as many as you think looks the best. So what I would say is, once you've decided on your length of yarn for the tassel, if we're going to go for the same length, we can just go ahead and cut loads more before we attach them. So I'll just cut a couple so you can see. So use your first one as a marker. And chop like that. So then you've got two there, but you could do maybe 10, 15, something like that. So you hold it in half, and then all you're going to do is loop it over and pull your two pieces of string through, and then tighten it. And that's it. I'll show you again with this one. So you have the, let's fold it in half first, make sure it's level. So your loop goes over, and then you get your 2 bits that go through like this, and tighten, and then you can have them as far apart or as close together as you like. Give them a nice pull, and nice and tight, and they hang down like that. And you can do that with different colours, different lengths. If you can get wool that's sort of like got lots of different colours in it, that's always quite nice, because then you're sort of creating a pattern without even trying. Or you could maybe do alternate colours, so you could maybe go red tassel, yellow tassel, red tassel, yellow tassel. It's quite hard to say. And that's it. That's basically it. If you wanted to add pine cones, you could add them. You could attach them with string so that they're similar to the pom-poms. If you wanted to add feathers, I'd recommend putting them in the tassels. That looks quite nice. So if you wanted to add feathers, you could tie them to the bottom of the tassels or have them in amongst the tassels. If you wanted to press leaves, you could press some leaves in between a heavy book and then add them. There's loads of different alternatives. But like I say, really simple to do. Anyone can do it. Really fun thing to do with kids if you want them to get involved, because it just involves a bit of wool and some sticks. And pom-poms are really fun. And now you know how to make them. It's amazing how simple it is, but so effective. So go ahead and make lots of wall hangings for all your family and friends for Christmas presents. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'm Rosie from Rosie and Ramona. Thank you very much and Merry Christmas. Bye.